Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. This is what's going to be posted tomorrow. That song, I went and listened to it. That was a good song. I really like that. I went and subscribed to her channel because she likes content I like to listen to. So, yeah, no, most of it. All of it. I don't remember. It was a lot of songs, and I like listening to music. Kind of how I spend my day. I sleep all day and listen to music while sitting in the living room. No, but it was good. You should check it out. It was awesome. I own a guitar and I wish I could play it that amazingly, because that was awesome. I've never really took the chance to really learn it. We don't get to go do lessons, so I always try to do it like the little phone app thing, and those suck. So I've never really took the chance to properly learn the guitar. I also have a broken piano in here, so again, broken. Well, it's an organ piano, and there's something wrong with it. It caught on fire a few years back. Well, more than a few years back, but I'm rambling. So, today we are reading His Reasons. It's a Todoroki X-Rated fanfic by AshleyH713. We're gonna do season 3, chapter 6, because I think my emotional, my poor emotions can't take much more. I was almost crying in the last one, and then when she left Shoto behind, I get her reasons, but at the same time, I don't think I could have done that. That physically hurt. No. No, I'll try to record again after this. I don't know. If the uploading doesn't take forever. That last video took fucking ever to upload. It was having such trouble loading, and it started to piss me off. So, probably load this one and do a couple more tomorrow instead. We'll find out when I'm done recording. So. Before I ramble more, let's begin. Season 3, Chapter 6. Shinzo was heading outside for some air, only for him to notice the sky having an unearthly tone to it. It seemed almost bluish in color as it peeked over the corner of his vision. Narrowing his eyes in confusion, the boy then turned towards the glow, only to widen his eyes in utter terror. The forest, it was like it was on fire. Suddenly he heard Aizawa calling out to him, ushering him away from the flames roughly. Shinzo, get back inside and don't come out. We are under attack. His mind started to run at 1 billion miles per second. Staring at the destruction with hollow eyes, how could that be possible? They were supposed to be safe. But then another terrible realization came to his mind. Tonight was the night Amari was planning all those things for Todoroki. That could only mean one horrible thing, that she was still out there. Aizawa seemed to say another assortment of words, but Shinzo couldn't hear any of them, only focusing on the possibility of Amari being hurt. The idiot. She would probably run headfirst into danger. Shaking his head in frustration, he felt as the teacher grabbed him by the arm roughly. Shinzo, are you listening? Get back inside with the other Class 1B students. A small silence appeared as the boy then looked down at his arm and then realized what he had to do, now pulling away from the man quickly. Then before he could grab him, Shinzo was gone, racing through the woods with no plan and no strategy. He wanted his chance to be a hero. Well, this was it. He vaguely heard Aizawa shouting back to him to come back before his echo slowly faded into the soft breeze of the wind. After a couple moments, Shinzo leaned over, catching his breath when a small giggle was heard throughout the space. Oh, and what do we have here? Sharply turning his hand, the boy stopped when he saw a small man staring back at him. He was wearing an all-black bodysuit with white, beady eyes. That was a villain. Shinzo stood on his guard, only for the man to clap his hand as if he was excited. Let me introduce myself. My name is Twice, and it is very nice to meet you. I hate him already. The change in attitude was not lost on the boy, although he could only remain silent. He had never faced a real villain before, so understandably he was outright terrified. Twice laughed at that, though, putting a finger to his chin, as if in thought. You wouldn't happen to know where Bakugo is, would you? His question caused the boy to ready his stance. He knew his quirk didn't stand a chance against this kind of villain, but he had to try, or else they could hurt Amari. The man seemed pleased at this, his eyes full of pleasure. Oh, you want to play? How fun. Prepare to die. Then the villain came barreling towards him all at once, and Shinzo could somehow only just stare. He felt absolutely pathetic. Unable to move as Twice threw his sharp metal tape in his direction. Huh? He closed his eyes in terror and waited for the impact, but was surprised to find himself unharmed. Opening his eyes all at once, Shinzo couldn't help but widen his eyes at the sight of before him. Standing in front of him, with her back facing the boy, was Amari. Her shields were up in a shimmering gold light, protecting the two of them from the attack. Shinzo didn't know exactly what happened, but he knew one thing for sure. She had just saved his life. "Are you okay?" Shinzo nodded his head, only for the girl to smile, now feeling his chest tighten all at once. He wanted to ask the same, but nothing came out. Thank goodness. Twice stomped his foot in at her interference, though not happy about it. "Aw, you got in the way. Who even are you?" Then she turned back to the villain before smirking, fire now in her eyes. "Nice to meet you. My name is Bakugo Amari. Now you want to play? Let's play." Shinzo then watched as Twice's eyes lit up, taking in her challenge. "Oh, you'll be fun." Then he threw his metal tape towards her again as the girl pushed Shinzo back a couple feet, keeping him in her shield. "Stay here." Amari extended her bubble before smiling and covering her hand with her quirk, grabbing onto the man's tape and stopping the movement. Then she took her foot and kicked his chest, causing the man to groan. While he was on the floor, the girl was able to turn when his tape wrapped around her ankles, pulling her down into a hard thud, now sliding towards him. Raising a fist up, Amari gasped before lighting up her explosions and hitting the tape, causing it to shake under her, but not shatter. Tape? I'm in confusion. I don't remember Twice having tape. Maybe I just already forgot the entire manga. I don't know. I just don't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and read that because I don't think he had tape. I remember Sero having tape. Never mind. Because of that, Twice was able to get a shot in, punching her chest before she could protect herself with her quirk. Gasping in pain, Amari then tried again, now hearing heckling from the man. "You can't break my tape. Nice try, though. Now, what should I do with you?" He went to punch her again, but she lifted her shield up in time, the matter shattering upon impact. This was starting to become bad. He was extremely strong. Then she tried one last time, using everything within her and applying pressure to his tape, screaming in the process. The villain eyed this with interest. "Are you listening? I already said you can't break." But yet, after he said that, the tape started to crack, causing Amari to shout back toward Shinzo. "Hey, now would be a good time to use that annoying habit of yours." Twice didn't understand what she meant, but luckily Shinzo did. Now suddenly finding his voice, he had to do this for her. "Hey, ugly!" This caught the villain's attention, stopping the attack on the girl before narrowing his eyes in confusion. Did he just hear that right? "Excuse me." But just as he spoke, the villain felt his body freeze, as if he lost control of his functions. Amari smirked at the sight, knowing that he had used his quirk finally. "Took you long enough, Shintoos." Then she rammed her hand into her leg, burning the tape slowly, singeing her own skin in the process. This caused Shinto to panic, already running over to her. "Bakugo, stop, you're hurting yourself." Yet she didn't stop, finally creating a tear big enough to slip out of his grasp before hissing in pain. "Oh, calm down, Shinzo. Don't be such a baby. I had to do that." Shinzo sighed internally at that before reaching out his hand. "Thanks for that. I don't know what happened. I just froze. Some hero I want to be." Although Amari didn't look disappointed in him in the slightest, only grasping his hand and pulling herself up. "Don't worry about it. Actually, being attacked by villains is completely different from training. I would know. You'll get used to it." Dusting herself off, Shinzo couldn't help but cringe, glancing at the villain who was now under his control and completely still. "I don't know if I want to get used to it." Laughing slightly, she was about to speak again when a silver glimmer caught the corner of her eye, her brain suddenly on high alert. Then, without thinking, Amari's eyes widened, registering what it was and pushing Shinzo out of the way quickly. "Shinzo, look out!" Feeling himself being pushed, he was about to question it when a pop was overheard. A quick whistle blew through the space, and less than a moment later it landed square in the middle of Amari's right shoulder. Gasping in pain, Amari clutched her arm, only for Shinzo to finally connect the pieces. That noise, it was a gun. And not only that, she was shot. She fell down to her knees as Shinzo gasped, now reaching for her in absolute fear. He needed to get her to the hospital. He needed to help her. "Bakugo?" Seething at the sensation, she felt liquid pooling across her fingers. "Fuck!" Kneeling beside her, he carefully touched her hand, only to pull away when she hissed at the contact. This was bad. This was really bad. Who knows what the bullet could have hit. Why did you do that? You're so stupid. The girl started to speak when that glimmer of silver showing again, this time the girl pushing Shinzo down on the floor with her. Get down! Another bullet whistled by before hitting the tree behind them roughly. That's when the smoke started. It started off low, pooling around their feet as Shinzo gasped, quickly covering her mouth at her dismay. It's poisonous. Quick, cover yourself. Nodding her head, Amari clamped her hands over her nose before forcing her quirk to make a shield around the two of them, keeping out the gas. Shinzo noticed her struggling more than usual, though, hissing through the pain. It's the bullet, isn't it? It's draining you. Stop using your quirk already. But she just shook her head, noticing sweat forming on the edge of her brow. The pills, they were wearing off soon. Shut up, I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to let you die, stupid. Then she struggled to stand, clutching her shoulder the entire time, and looking towards the tree line. That asshole won't stop firing at us until we catch him. I think the gas is his doing as well. Come on, let's go. Shaking his head, Shinzo also stood up, supporting her back so she wouldn't fall. But your wound, although Amari only smirked, shaking her head as the sweat started to accumulate. This is nothing. Don't worry. I'll protect you. That wasn't what he wanted to hear at all, though. There was something wrong with her, and yet she wasn't saying such useless things. He didn't want to be protected. Shinzo wanted to protect her. Snaking a hand around her waist, he turned serious, now knowing he couldn't be a coward for her, especially when she was doing so much. I'll support you so you can walk. Let's go. She felt a little uncomfortable by his hand, but knew without it she would struggle even more to maintain her shield while walking. He was trying to help. Yeah. They inched closer, feeling the bullets bounce off the dome as Amari grunted, forcing her shield not to crack and break underneath her. Her body was screaming for her to stop, fully knowing that the pills were running out quickly, but somehow she needed to do this. What kind of hero would she be if she couldn't even protect her brother? After walking for a couple minutes, the bullets got closer until they could see exactly who was responsible. It looked to be a middle school-aged boy with a gas mask and a large oxygen tank. You are very frustrating. Another bullet hit her dome, and Amari felt it crack, now coughing up a small bit of blood. She wouldn't last much longer. The shield was going to break soon. The boy laughed, readying his gun as she suddenly got an idea, turning to Shinzo sharply. Shinzo, I'm going to put down my shield in 10. This caused the boy's eyes to widen. Her shield was the only thing covering each other. What? No, you'll get caught up in the gas. You can't fight right now, idiot. Nodding her head, she only smirked back. I know. That's why I need your help. Remember what I taught you? Shinzo didn't like the sound of that at all, though. He knew what she meant exactly. She wanted to fight him. Bakugo, this is incredibly risky. You know I still can't... Oh, she wanted him to fight. Although Amari only smiled, patting him weakly on the head once, like you would do for a small child. Hey, listen, I wouldn't have trained you if I thought you couldn't do it. I trust you wholeheartedly, Shinzo. So let's go kick some ass together. Thinking for a moment, another bullet bounced off her dome, causing the girl to hiss in pain, and the boy knew what he had to do. Shinzo wasn't completely sure he could pull this off, but he knew he had to try. For her, he had to, or else she wouldn't last much longer. He nodded his head once, and Amari understood, now silently counting to 10 in her head before letting her shield down and disappearing into the mist while holding her breath. She had about a minute before she passed out from the lack of oxygen. The villain seemed to notice this as well, laughing at her blunder. Now that wasn't very smart. You know, I can sense where you are at all times. Raising his gun up in the direction of the mist, he was suddenly caught off guard by Shinzo, who was aiming his fist at his head. The boy dodged, the purple-haired boy remembered what Amari said, now stepping forward with his right foot, just as the villain lifted his gun. Using his left foot, Shinzo kicked the boy's arm, causing the shot to ring out in the air. The villain's grip loosened just slightly. He then saw his chance, pushing the boy's hand forward enough to grab the gun and toss it aside. The villain stopped his foot in anger, then racing for the boy when Shinzo only smirked, pointing behind him. Then before he could react, the villain heard a strong voice behind him. This is for shooting me, asshole. Raising her hand out, Amari screamed, letting her explosion blow a hole into the villain's oxygen tank and letting all the gas in. Shouting out in utter terror, the gas started to fill the boy's mask before he stumbled over unconscious from his own doing. Shinzo breathed out a huge breath of relief at the sight. They did it. They really did it. But the celebration was short-lived as he saw Amari fall to her knees, coughing and breathing heavily from inhaling the gas. He raced over to her quickly, putting a hand to her back before frowning. You idiot, you were supposed to keep holding your breath. Why did you speak? It took a couple minutes, but after a few failed attempts, Amari smiled. But I was cool, wasn't I? Her words caused Shinzo to freeze for a moment before slowly laughing. He was still anxious, but couldn't help feeling slightly relieved seeing her make such a lame joke. Damn it, Todoroki was right after all. He did like her. Running his fingers through his hair, the boy couldn't help but smirk, thinking she was really something. Yeah, Amari, you were really cool. At the sound of her first name, Amari couldn't help but widen her eyes, her smile falling from her face. Why was he staring at her like that? Suddenly a loud rustle was heard to their left, the two back on the ground and struggling to stand up. What the hell could it be this time? As the stranger turned the corner, Amari and Shinzo were surprised to find not another villain, but rather Deku, Soji, Todoroki, and the rest of Class 1A staring back at them. Everyone, you're okay. Although, that was quite a stretch as Deku looked absolutely terrible, now riding on Shoji's back. It seemed like he had multiple broken bones. Amari! Shinzo! The boy seemed desperate from his tone, causing the two to freeze. They have Kachan. Right? They have Kachan. We have to go. Deku's words ran through Amari like a sharp spike, causing her breathing to pick up at a rapid pace, already turning for the woods. No, this couldn't be happening. She had to protect him. Over my damn body. Where did they go? Giving out a couple vague directions, Amari was on her feet, racing towards her brother as Todoroki caught up to her, looking worried. Amari, hold on. What happened to you? You're bleeding. He slightly begged her to stop, but the girl was determined, now really feeling the adrenaline throughout her entire body. I was shot. Rather not talk about it. Gasping in terror at her explanation, he wanted to tell her not to push herself, but Todoroki already knew that this was impossible. Her brother was on the line, after all. Did you just say shot? Just then, Uraka pointed to the sky, now seeing the villains flying over the trees. There he is. Bakugo is in one of those orbs. Narrowing his eyes in determination, Deku came up with a plan, already turning to his friends sharply. Sue, use your tongue to fly us into him. Quickly. Sue seemed to understand, quickly gathering up the entire class before speaking. Here we go. Then the class went flying, crashing into the villain, bringing him to the ground roughly. His idea worked. Thank goodness. Groaning underneath them, the students finally thought they had the upper hand. That is, until Dobby spoke. Hey, get out of the way. Mr. Compress seemed to understand, and before the kids could react, the villain had disappeared into nothing. Eyeing this with confusion, they were suddenly surrounded by the same blue flames from the forest, burning each of them and making the group back away. Amari touched her burned skin for a moment before laying her eyes on the same villain as before. It was the purple-skinned one. She didn't know why, but there was something about him. It's you again. Dobby couldn't help but smirk at that, nodding his head. That it is. You really gave it everything, didn't you? Too bad it wasn't enough. His words made her twitch in anger, already getting to her feet, and shouting at the villain in front of her. Give me my brother back, you assholes. They all blinked in surprise before slowly letting their faces curve into devious smiles. The blonde girl spoke first, hanging on every word. Oh, so you're the one. Turning her head in confusion, they then heard Twice laughing joyfully. Oh, he was right, wasn't he? Go after the brother and the sister will follow. Feeling the air around them turn cold, Amari didn't understand. They were here for her brother, right? What? Yet the villains couldn't have been happier. Dobby speaking proudly. You are so predictable, Bakugo Amari. You did just what he thought you would. Just then, Mr. Compress pulled out a shiny green orb, swirling it around his fingers. Mari's blood ran cold at the sight, knowing somehow that Katsuki was in there. Now you have a choice to make. Lifting up the orb as if to tease her, the masked villain continued. We'll give you back your precious brother for a price. Not fully understanding, she heard Todoroki behind her, begging her not to do anything stupid. Amari, don't listen to them. But she honestly had no choice but to listen, or else who knows what they could do to her brother. How generous. Dobby smirked back, enjoying her spunk before finishing the sentence. Amari now feeling her heart stop in her chest at the request. You have to take his place, with no resistance. Weighing the options in her head, Amari knew that following them probably meant death or torture or both. But then if she didn't trade them, that meant Katsuki would have to go through all those horrible things instead. She couldn't bear for that to happen. Because she was silent, Todoroki automatically started to shout at her, knowing very well she was thinking about it. Amari, no, don't do it. Please. His voice was desperate, clinging on to the hope that all of this could just go away, that they could save Bakugo, and then Amari wouldn't have to even think about it. The last thing he wanted, the last thing he could handle was losing her. Closing her eyes in pain, she started to hear her other classmates begging her not to choose this, but Amari knew better, now knowing the villain's ultimate plan. You didn't want him from the start, did you? You just got Katsuki to get to me, because you knew I would do anything for him, right? Dabi smirked at this, gaining her answering. Yes, they did all this on purpose. Amari stared at the green orb for a moment longer, before nodding her head and speaking clearly, balling her fists in the process. No, she wouldn't let her brother suffer. Deal. Todoroki's eyes grew wide at her words, already trying to race towards her when a wave of blue fire blocked him from his path. No, she couldn't do this. She was right here in front of him. She couldn't disappear. No, stop it, Amari. Please don't do this. Although the girl only smiled sadly, tears in her eyes as she turned to the boy she loved. I'm sorry, Shoto, but you and I both know I can't let them hurt Katsuki. Todoroki's expression grew hollow as Twice clapped, pointing to the pills attached to her belt. Good. Now get rid of those pills. No funny games, remember? Narrowing her eyes, Amari then reached down and unhooked her box of pills before tossing it to the ground. Now she couldn't use her quirk to double-cross them. Then, stepping closer, she spoke. I did what you asked. Now let Katsuki go. Dabi didn't seem satisfied, though, beckoning her closer. Not yet. Glaring back, she ignored the cries from her classmates to stop, and instead complied, moving until she was only a couple inches from the villain. There. Happy? He seemed satisfied with this. Very, but one more thing. Before she could even ask, Dabi reached down and grabbed her throat, squeezing her airway and gasping for breath as the blonde girl giggled. Gleaming with pride, Toga then began to smile, like she knew a secret. Can I tell her now? Can I? We decided to keep your brother for leverage. The students gasped at the betrayal. The villains now expecting Amari to cry or gasp or be shocked, but they got none of those things. Instead, she only smirked, raspily speaking out. You didn't really think I was that stupid, did you? Then she showed them her mouth, now with one single white pill in between her teeth. That sneaky girl. She must have hid it in the corner of her mouth before throwing her pills away. Swallowing the object quickly, Amari then lifted her hand, a large explosion now going off and burning Dabi's hand. He quickly let go because of the shock, and the girl jumped into action, ignoring the fire in her chest and grabbing the green orb from the villain's hand and staring at Todoroki, that crazy girl. She really planned all this out. Running forward a couple steps, Amari then lifted her hand before tossing the object roughly in the direction of the students. Shoto, catch! Todoroki caught the orb all at once, now staring down at it in utter amazement. She did it. She just saved her brother. Although the victory was short-lived as a rough hand grabbed Amari from behind, pulling her back to where she started, except this time with a bunch of unhappy villains. Because there was no need to comply anymore, she struggled against her attackers as Twice held her in place. Now, little girl, we said to play nice. Why didn't you listen? You already broke your promise. Amari wasn't listening, though, already trying to activate her quirk against him. Screw you! Let me go, you asshole! Twice seemed hurt by the words, though, as Toga spoke back. She keeps trying to use her quirk. That's no fun. We should fix that. He seemed to understand what she was implying, and in one single motion, Twice bent Amari's left arm back extremely rough, so much so that a sickening crack echoed throughout the entire space. Everyone's eyes widened as Amari clutched her arm, letting out a painful, terrible, and blood-curdling scream. That bastard just broke her arm like nothing. Twice leaned down to her level, though, trying to make her understand. It's your fault for trying to run away. But Amari just seethed, hissing through her teeth as she muffled another scream. Fuck you. The villain frowned only for Dabi to sigh, now stepping in. Just forget the brother. He was a bonus anyways. We have what we came for. Come on. Then they started picking Amari off the ground as she cried out in pain, feeling both the bullet from her shoulder and her broken arm betraying her body as they touched her. Todoroki watched them take Amari away and immediately ran forward, not caring anymore if the flames burned him. This couldn't happen. She was hurt and needed medical attention immediately. He needed to get her back. Amari, get your dirty hands off her right now. Amari felt her vision blur from the loss of blood and the pain, opening her mouth to call out Todoroki before going dizzy and slumping over the villain's arm. Dabi eyed this with disdain. Let's hope she doesn't die on the way. That would be very disappointing. Seeing her unconscious, Todoroki growled, now throwing ice in the villain's direction, as Dabi easily canceling them with his own flames. Sorry, Todoroki, it wasn't enough. Even Deku and Shinzo started racing forward, but it was too late. In a flash, the villains disappeared into a portal, behind them, now taking Amari with them. The flames started to disappear as Todoroki ran forward, turning his head desperately to see where they had gone, but unfortunately it was no use. She was gone. Shaking his head in utter denial, the boy muttered out brokenly, "No, no, no, Amari, no." Then he noticed something on the ground a couple feet away from where they were. It was the notebook she had always carried. It looked like she dropped it in the fight. Racing over to the object in desperation, Todoroki lifted up the book before using a shaky hand to open the front cover, now gasping out the words on the page. There in thick black ink was the title, "Ways to Tell Shoto I Love Him." Feeling his breathing pick up, he flipped over the page only to find hundreds upon hundreds of details describing his birthday surprise among various song lyrics about their time together. All this time, the reason she wouldn't let him see the book was because everything was for him, to show him that she loved him. And now she was putting the book up to his face. Todoroki slowly fell to his knees at the idea before letting tears rise up to the surface. She was right there in front of him, and he promised he'd protect her, but now, who knows what could happen. Slamming his hands into the grass, Todoroki took a shaky breath, only to find Uraka patting his shoulder, trying to calm him down. But because it wasn't Mari's touch, he broke down even more, cracking on each of his words at once. "This can't be happening. Please don't leave me. I love you." Uraka's eyes filled with tears as well, hearing his devastating cries. He was always so quiet and calm, so seeing the boy break down like this was hard to watch. She then turned back to Deku, who was also crying, muttering under his breath, "She was right there. She was just there, and I lost her. I'm so sorry, Todoroki." Although the boy didn't seem to listen, now hearing Sue's voice. "So, who's gonna tell Bakugo?" Everyone perked up, staring at the orb in Todoroki's hand sadly. Even though they had a heartbreaking fight, she had still given everything for her brother to be safe. So now, the question still remained. Who was going to tell Bakugo his sister was gone? God damn, that was sad. That end there, man. Oh my god. God, this is like one of those things that's like, there are very few things that can make me cry. Like, I didn't even cry at the Heroes Rising movie, which was amazing, actually, because it was really sad. But, like, this story is one of the few things that make me cry. Maybe it's because I'm the comfort in my home. No, I don't know. That was sad. Okay, you should check her out. She's a good writer. She's also got a YouTube channel that was linked in the last video because she wrote a song for this story. It was adorable. I really like it. I'm gonna go fall asleep to it. No, I don't know. Maybe I'll put it on the list. If we get there, we get there. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. This is going to be the last recording for the night because I am starting to hurt physically and emotionally from that last part. Yeah, you will hear me in the next video. Bye-bye.